Well, time now to turn our attention to the international newspapers. Our press bureau, Bastille Laurent, joins us on set for a look through them. Bastille, going to start with the French papers, which are focusing on the president's interview yesterday.
That's right. The French president gave a wide-ranging interview in which he talked about things like unemployment, pensions, taxes, and of course the coronavirus pandemic. The big takeaway, as you see on the front page of Aujourd'hui en France, or as it's known here in Paris, Le Parisien, is that masks will be obligatory in closed public spaces from next month. And he's also announced a €1 billion recovery plan to address in particular things like youth unemployment. The televised intervention really getting a lot of reactions in the paper today from many, including L'Opinion. It was seen as Emmanuel Macron trying to set the tone for the rest of his presidency, but for the right-wing paper, L'Opinion, there wasn't much reinventing. In fact, you see there in the headline, Macron reinvents himself as Macron, so nothing much has changed, while Libération, the left-wing paper, sees Macron as delivering an interview that seemed more that of a prime minister than a president.
Strange thing to say, but let's move to Spain, Bastille. And the Speaker of Catalonia's regional parliament has demanded an investigation into reports that his mobile phone was the target of a national spy campaign.
Yeah, that's right. Roger Torrent, a leading supporter of the Catalan independence movement, has demanded that an investigation be launched after a report came out this week in El País and The Guardian, saying that he'd been warned last year that his phone was targeted by spyware. Allegedly, Spanish security forces used the spyware sold by an Israeli spy tech firm. The spyware can, in theory, only be bought by governments and security forces to fight crime and terrorism. That's what Ara, the Catalan paper, explains on its front page. Meanwhile, an Israeli court has dismissed a petition filed by Amnesty International to revoke that spy tech company, NSO Group's exporting license. Amnesty was saying that the company is helping governments and security forces to infiltrate the phones of political opponents, journalists and diplomats. In fact, you might remember last month Moroccan authorities were allegedly used this company's spyware to monitor an investigative journalist, Omar Radi. That was, as I said, revealed last month.
Okay. Well, meanwhile, the New York Times has announced that it's going to move part of its Hong Kong-based operations to South Korea because of China's new national security law.
Yeah, it's quite a significant move, and really for both the New York Times but also Western companies in general. It's also proof of how that law has really plagued organizations and created uncertainty about how to continue Hong Kong-based reporting in the region. The Times has announced that it'll move a third of its staff, its digital team, to Seoul in light of that uncertainty. The paper is saying that the rest of its team for the moment will stay in Hong Kong, and also saying that journalists have been facing just things like work permit issues, which, while could have been were often problematic in China, had never been a problem in Hong Kong before. And it's not just media organizations. You know, Western businesses like banks and tech firms are also weighing their options on what to do next.
Okay, one to watch for sure. Finally, Bastille, you've spotted a new scientific study that's made interesting observations about hot dog eating competitions. I have to admit, it's not something I've ever really thought too much about.
No, well, these scientists clearly have. It's a 4th of July tradition in the U.S., scoffing down record numbers of hot dogs in Nathan's hot dog eating contest in California. The record holder, Joey Jaws Chestnut, has won 13 times with a PB of 75 hot dogs in just 10 minutes. Well, now using data from that competition, which has until now mostly been seen as an entertaining spectacle of gluttony, this study is predicting that we're nearing the peak of how many hot dogs a human can possibly consume. That's set at 84. As you can see from this graph, our capacity to consume hot dogs has gradually increased in the last 40 years. In 1980, it was 1 hot dog a minute to over 7 per minute in 2020. You know, competitive eating is a sport in its own right, but, you know, please don't try it at home.
I don't know what I think of that achievement, I have to say, Bastille. It leaves me cold.
That's a lot of data for a hot dog eating
competition. It is, isn't it? Bastille Laurent with a look at the international papers. Thanks a lot for that.